If I had only read 280 by itself, I probably would have been in tears in this review, because I genuinely care about a lot of the characters in Magi. It's not like other series where it's like, oh, I care about a few of them. Like, I genuinely care about a lot of these characters, and the way the events of 280 at the end and everything, I was just like, oh my fucking gosh, Shinobu, what are you doing? Why are you so violent, girl? So Koen, being the honorable man, basically giving Hakuryu his arms and legs back in trade for his own, like, you know, one arm and two legs, so that Hakuryu could get his back, and at the same time, it was gratitude, like, thank you. And that showcased that Koen, while he looked like a fucking piece of shit and an asshole and everything, he was ultimately not the bad guy. He was not, because, I mean, look how he felt, look everything that he had been through, and even he's on death's door right there, and he's still doing for Hakuryu, the man that did this to him. I will say one thing, though, with the war basically ending at these, you know, particular points, I think that the war definitely should have been longer, and again, like I said in my video about Magi ending and entering its final arc after, I think it's chapter 282, that's the final chapter of this arc or whatever, but this war went by really quick if you think about it. What was it, like 6 chapters, and then Koen gave up immediately? I didn't expect it to go this route either, but I think it's very tragic. I think if it would have went down that way, as far as the way that I wanted it to go, with, like, you know, Koen having a big battle and with Sinbad and everything, and then losing and then being in this position, I think that would have been a lot more stronger than kind of him giving up. But nonetheless, it's still very fucking emotional. And again, I think Koen is the one person that really helped to change Hakuryu, because Gyokuen was never going to give him the closure that he needed, because Gyokuen is not really his mother. That's Arba inside of it, you know, Gyokuen's body, so he wasn't gonna ever get it. But from Koen to find out that he was a genuine person and his hatred was misguided to begin with, very fucking powerful stuff. And I think the main goal that Aladdin had for a long time has been realized, and I don't think he necessarily knows it, as far as turning the Black Rook white. I don't know if it's turning the Black Rook white or just making the Black Rook disintegrate in general, but you've seen it within these 2 chapters, especially the second chapter. I think Koen, what he did, and I think we got an answer to that as far as how to do the Black Rook to White Rook, or get rid of the Black Rook in general, is you need to accept shit. You need to accept that, you know, at the end of the day, people aren't all bad, and I think you need to go to a certain path. I think there's a lot of it has to do with mental strength and acceptance and understanding and shit like that. I think that that's where ultimately it lies. So I don't think anybody can necessarily just go on and completely change people. People have to want to change themselves. Just like they fall into depravity, I think they need to fall out of depravity on their own. And if you think about it, Sinbad's still playing motherfuckers. He's like, Hakuryu, how you doing? You glad to be the fucking king now, bro? But in reality, it's an empty title. It's like, I'm giving you a placeholder right now, bro. Like, yeah, you can hold that crown, and yeah, you could be king, whatever, why not, right? But in reality, he's like, yeah, I want to erase all borders. So eventually, he wants to just be the supreme king of everything. So right now, it's like, Hakuryu, hold your little crown, buddy. And Sinbad, yet again, being just the shady motherfucker that he is. And I mean, with Koen basically biting the big one in that chapter. Again, if this was just that chapter, I would have been like, holy shit. Holy fucking shit. This is insane. But of course, we got 281, so I know obviously what happens afterward or whatever. But either way, just that. And then those events leading Hakuryu to even want to kill himself. Like, Hakuryu, you have risen so high in my book, bro. Like, to be able to do what you did ultimately helped to fake Koen's death, because you couldn't do that. You couldn't bear that. You already lost Alibaba and everything. And then to even regret everything to a point of wanting to commit suicide. Not that that's a cool thing or that's the right thing to do, but just the growth from a fucking crusty piece of shit to the point of now understanding things a little bit more, even though you're in a confused state. Like, Hakuryu, my motherfucking man, bro. Like, I hated that motherfucker, but now Hakuryu, bro. And again, it feels a little weird that, because at the end of the chapter with Morgiana showing up and leading into the next chapter, it was only like, what, 10, 20, 30 chapters ago when he was with Judal saying, we're gonna kill everybody, I'm gonna strangle Morgiana. So again, I think that's due to the rushing. I think this arc alone should have been like double or triple the size, but they rushed the fuck out of her, because it kind of, again, just seems weird. Like, I was just about to strangle this bitch, and now I'm like, that's the woman that got away, mate. And then getting Morgiana's resolve, fucking interesting as fuck. Like, we don't get Morgiana speaking all the time, but when she does speak, we listen, because she be making some crazy sense. And her basically saying that she regretted not stopping Hakuryu, and she feels responsible for Ali Baba's death because of that. Ultimately, I think to a certain degree, I understand where her regret is coming from, but Hakuryu made his own choice as a man. What were you gonna do? You're gonna beat him up and drag him back? I mean, I guess you could have done that in a comedic aspect, but there's really not much you could have done to stop him. You don't love him. You admitted in this chapter, which huge development for Morgiana to finally come to terms. yeah, I love that man. I liked him. I loved him. Ultimately, really getting her feelings and everything is like, you couldn't fake and say, because then you would be stuck with him, oh yeah, I do love you. So there wasn't really anything you could have done, girl. Like, I understand your feelings and everything, but Hakuryu made his decision, and ultimately the fight with Alibaba happened for a reason. And I find it a little bit awkward, but at the same time I understand the mature nature of it, to say that you're going to stand by Hakuryu's side. And it's because that's probably what Alibaba would have wanted, because he did care a lot about Hakuryu. That was his friend, and he wanted him to achieve his goals and everything. But at the same time, this is the motherfucker that killed your friend. I don't know if I would, regardless if we used to be friends, that's what Alibaba would have done. I don't think I would have necessarily been able to put up with that. But again, that's the whole point of Magi, is understanding and not holding grudges so you don't fall in depravity. If she was another person, she would have been right there like, I'll never forgive you, and fucking kick his head off. And again, with this chapter, Kohen, that he faked his death or whatever, like, honestly, when he does finally see Komei and Koha, and they're, reunited, and it's basically like three kingdoms in a way, the three brothers, what was it, Liu Bei, Guan Yu, something like that, like, it reminded me of those three brothers, and they're, like, completely fucked up. But all three of them are basically exiled when one of them had to fake his death, and he only has one arm and a prosthetic arm and prosthetic legs. It's like, it's a fucked up situation, but I think that this is also set up for the final arc when Kohen does return, even though he's not going to have real arms and legs or whatever. I'm curious what type of asset he's going to be, because he doesn't have his metal vessels anymore. I think all of them have been stripped of all of that. It's going to be weird to see what he can do when he comes back for the battle. Maybe try and steal back one or two of his things and fight. I don't know, like, it's going to be interesting that he's being kept alive, and it's for a reason. And I think maybe him and Sinbad will have a small showdown, even if it's not exactly what we wanted, like a massive war with all their strength. But I think he'll get back at Sinbad at some given point. And at the end of the chapter, it's interesting how Hakuryu is falling from depravity back into, like, he's turning back into the old Hakuryu. I don't know if maybe he's half fallen or completely normal again with White Rook or whatever. But while that is happening, on the opposite side of the spectrum, since she doesn't know, Aladdin and a very select few know about Kohen's basically faked death thanks to Hakuryu. Ultimately, Kogyoku falls into depravity, saying she'll never forget Sinbad, which is very interesting, because at the end of the day, Sinbad, she had the hots for him like a motherfucker, but that shows how much she loved her brother. And it sucks because she's falling into depravity off of false pretenses. It's like, yeah, your brother isn't really dead, and now you're gonna be evil and shit like that. So I don't know if Kogyoku has the mental strength like Hakuryu has built up to be able to go back to White Rook. Then again, if they find the secrets to go from falling into depravity to normal, maybe they can use that to help her. We'll have to see, but just crazy ending to the chapter, and honestly, Magi greatness right now, these two chapters. Granted, I understand some people will bitch that 280 teased Kohen's death, and then 281, oh, he's still alive, and in that regard, I understand, yeah, it's like, oh, fuck, he should have, been dead, but at the same time, he paid a major cost. What the fuck does he have now? One arm? Like, so, it's a give and a take, and I mean, he doesn't have any vessels, he's stranded on an island with his two brothers that they can't do shit, so, it's not as bad as death or whatever, but yeah, it's still a fucked up situation, so I'm not that mad about it. Like, oh, they fucked around, and I guess it's because I read them kind of back to back that is like less of an anger thing, and it's more like, well, it would have been a little more impactful if he died, but I get it. And at the same time, it was more so to help Hakuryu's character develop to who he needs to be and not who he wanted to be for the longest time. So I'd say these past two chapters, both very good stuff. Again, it would have been great if it was the, complete thing and Shinobu went all the way through, but it was still very good chapters, like 8 out of 10s for each of them for the most part. Not too many bad things, although, again, Kohen's death, well, what can you say? Let me know what you guys think, though. How do you feel about Kohen's death and then kind of not really death? He only had one arm. How do you feel about Hakuryu going back from falling into depravity to seemingly normal? Is that the answer Aladdin's been looking for this entire time? Also, Kogyoku falling into depravity. Will there be an answer for her as well? Will she be able to do the same steps that Hakuryu took to return? Maybe finding out Kohen is really alive will help. And your overall thoughts these past couple chapters, like, it sucks. Magi's ending soon, but, I mean, Shinobu's going out with a bang, right? But that's all I have for this review. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed, if you could do so as well, that'd be amazing. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day.